Move out at 18 and become your own man. Buy a house and build equity. Get a head start. Just work a second job and longer hours. That's the American way. This is the American dream, right? What's up, guys? My name is Caleb, and today we're going to be talking about why staying home at 18 could be the best financial decision that you make. Times have changed, and we have the data to show that and prove that. So my goal of this video, it's not just going to be just diving into the numbers and showing you how it literally doesn't add up anymore, but also how if you're feeling behind, you're feeling like you can't get ahead, one, you're not alone, and two, you're probably not as behind as you think you are. So let's start off with our favorite, home prices and salary. In 1970, the median home price was roughly $23,000, and the median household income was $8,730. You adjust that for inflation, you're looking at about 185 to 200K for a house and 75,000 for a salary. Now, simple math will tell you that if you divide 200,000 divided by 75,000, that you're looking at a home costing about 2 to 3 times more than your salary. Well, let's compare and contrast that to today's prices. A home today, the median is about 436,000 and the median household income is about 83,730. What that means is now homes are costing roughly 5 to 6 times more than the household salary is. Now, someone might say, "Oh, but wages have overall gone up. Like the household salary has increased from that 75, when we're counting for inflation to around 83." And while yes, that's true, something to keep in mind is that this is household. This is not individual. And back in the 1970s, most people were running it off of a single income, just the guy going out and working. Now it's dual income. Most people nowadays is two people working. So yeah, that's going to explain the difference, and it's really not even that much greater. And to show this that household is not just income, let's just run a quick example real quick. So in 1970, let's just take a manufacturer industrial labor worker. So they were making roughly for union factory workers, they made roughly around 12 to 15,000 per year. Make adjust that for inflation, you're looking at about 75 to 100K. Though we don't have the exact same job now, a typical similar job that you could run would be like somebody who works for USPS or like an Amazon driver, something like that, that it's more entry level, something that somebody can get in and make decent money on. Well, those jobs are roughly paying 18 to 25 an hour, which put that into salary numbers, that's around 37 to $52,000 a year. 75 to 100K, 18 to 25 an hour, which is 37 to 50K. You see the difference? So not only was the 1970 worker making significantly more, basically like a quarter more than what the similar equivalent makes now today, but he also only had to afford 2 to 3 times his salary in home pricing. Now, you could be looking at home prices and say, all right, you got me. Housing is just too expensive if you're looking to buy a home. I'll just rent instead. And as much as I would love to go over the rent versus housing debate, that's actually not what this is about. But what I want to show you is that really rent is not our saving grace either. Basic economics will show us that actually home pricing bleeds into rent prices as well. Let me explain. So just from like a higher up perspective, as demand goes up, supply will typically drop because there's more demand for a set thing, and vice versa. As supply goes up, demand typically drops. As there's more product, and the person trying to sell is going to lower the price to try to incentivize people to buy. So you can see how all of these correlate together. So, what ends up happening is as home prices continue to appreciate or rise, then the demand from the consumer side is going to drop. Well, if then home prices are going to remain steady, but what do you think happens to rent? Are those people just going to go live under a bridge or live in the Salvation Army? No, they're going to go rent instead. So, because they can't buy a home, they have to rent. That means the demand for rent increases, and as the demand increases, guess what happens to the price of rent? Rent also increases. This is why when you see homes appreciate, you see rent appreciate along with it. Could be at a different rate, could be less, could be more. All of that is subject to a bunch of factors, but just from a general higher up, this is what I mean when I say home prices bleed into rent prices. So then the question becomes, well, how are renters doing in this economy? Well, not that great. I mean, 49.7% of renters actually are spending more than 30% of their income on rent. And 26.5% are spending 50%, over 50% of their income on rent. We are talking a quarter of Americans are roughly spending half of their rent just to live. This is before we even get to taxes or groceries or insurance or all the other necessities that we have to pay for. Literally half your paycheck gone just to live in your space. So just to sum things up from like the numbers standpoint, I mean, you can't afford a home, you can barely afford rent, before all the other expenses come in. So like what are we going to do? Do we just throw our hands up and say I quit? Some people do, but what I'm going to offer is actually what I believe is the best solution. And yes, that solution, as the title says, it is to live at home with your parents, get your feet under you, get a springboard so you can launch into adult life. That is what's going to be the best financial decision that you can make. And remember, do you remember how we said this is the American way, move out at 18? What if I told you that that was actually not the norm for most of America's life? You see, the truth is that for most of America's history, moving out at 18 was taboo. It was not a norm. It was not the norm, like at all. In fact, the only time when moving out at 18 actually became like the thing to do, the normal thing, was when we had a huge economic prosperous time after World War II. That is when it started to become normal. From 1776 to roughly 1945, for most people, they were still living at home after 18, or they were going to university, something along those lines. But moving out, becoming your own man, buying your own house at 18, that was not the norm. That did not happen for like the first 170 years of America's history. And really, once you kind of started to hit 1975 to 1980-ish, it started to become harder and harder. I mean, we had a huge economic boom. After World War II, that's where we get the name for the generation baby boomer, is because people came home and times were great. They started having babies. Well, now we're kind of returning back to our roots, if you want to call it that, where moving out at 18 or young 20s, whatever, it's really economically not feasible. It's just not feasible for most people. And that's just the reality that we have to come to terms with. So I can probably already guess what a good amount of you are thinking, which is like, oh, you don't understand, Caleb. My parents are so annoying, or they make me do this, they make me mow the lawn, they make me do all that stuff. Like, I remember being 18 once, and helping around the house was not my favorite pastime, as I'm sure it's not many others. But what I want to do is I kind of want to help shift your mindset a little bit. I want you to look at things a little bit differently. And it's a healthy framework that has helped me out a lot. Your perspective is really your biggest enemy here. I want to share a quick story with you that one of my favorite teachers actually shared. It was about two well buckets that, go down and bring up water for people to drink. And there was a sad bucket and a happy bucket. And the sad bucket turned to the happy one and said, "Man, I don't understand how you're always happy. We're in the same predicament, the same rigmarole, doing the same thing. And every single time that we come up full, we're poured out empty." And the happy bucket turns to the sad one and says, "I don't understand you. We're in the same predicament, the same rigmarole, and every single time I go down empty, I come up full." So I tell that story to share, it's not just about the circumstance you're in, it's how you perceive your circumstance. So what does this mean practically? Like how am I going to help people want to live at home with their parents? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to Google right now, how much does a single bedroom cost in my area? And look at that price. Just look at it for a little bit. Take it in, and I want you to visualize your parents are paying you that amount every single month. For me, in Texas, it's $1,500 a month for a single bedroom where I'm at. Living at home would mean my parents are paying me $1,500 to clean the bathrooms, $1,500 to take out the trash, $1,500 to help with the dishes, $1,500 to take my little sister to school. Whatever it is that they ask you to do, they're paying you $1,500 a month to do that. And even if your parents charge you rent, most likely it will not be anything close to what a single bedroom costs. So, I mean, I guess if they do, then at that point you could consider moving out. But for most of us, that's probably not the circumstance. I want you to just see every single thing that you do to help out as a paycheck that you're not having to pay, that they're basically putting into your pocket. So I hope that's helpful. And if you're with a roommate, all the dishes that you have to clean up after them or whatever you're doing, same situation. You're saving $500 a month that, you would have been spending alone that you're having to do doing dishes. So if you're getting paid $500 to wash her dishes, I mean, that's a trade-off that I would take. Ultimately, I want you to know that if you're feeling like you're behind or you're lame for living with your parents, you're really not. I mean, that's the best financial decision I think that you can be making for your future self. I know the numbers can be discouraging, seeing that homes are costing 5 to 6 times, our salaries, or even more in a lot of places, and that we can't afford our buying power. Our dollar doesn't go as much as far as it did in the past, but we can't change any of that. But the one thing that we do have control over is our attitude. And the silver lining here is yes, the game has changed. Yes, it's honestly harder than it used to be, but there still are ways to get ahead. There still are ways to win. And I think living at home is really your best first decision that you can make. I hope this was encouraging to you. I appreciate you stopping by. Let me know in the comments below, how much does a single bedroom apartment cost where you live? Are you still living at with home? How old are you? So, would love to know that and respond to you guys, engage with you in that conversation. Like I said, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.